Those of you who were here last year know that I give a shiur in English. I said last year that I think probably the first time in Belz the shiur is being given in English. Now it's the second time. So hopefully everything will be okay. So I want to speak about the Gemara Daf Kuf Chav Gimel about Roy and Muchzak. I understand that the Olam is holy, and go a little bit over the Gemara and the Sugya, the Kuf Chav Gimel Amud Beis, Kuf Chav Dal Amud Aleph. The Gemara says that Torabban Habchar Neitel Pishnayim B'Zrol V'Chaim B'Keva. Chor takes it's the Keva and Zrol Chaim B'Keva B'Gdoshim V'Shevach Sheshivchu Nechasim L'Acham Yisasaviyim. Ketzad Hiniach Lem Aviyim Poro Muchkeres U'Muchkeres B'Yad Acherim. Oisho Yosor Ba'Afar V'Yoldo B'Chor Neitel Pishnayim. Avubana Batim V'Notu Kramim Ein B'Chor Neitel Pishnayim. So we have a couple of things here. We see that by Muchkeres U'Muchkeres B'Yad Acherim, then the B'chor gets Pishnayim. It's Ra Ba'Afar and Banu Batim V'Notu Kramim, and also by Makkirei Kehunah. The Gemara says afterwards, it says that the father got it. It's Pashat. Vidloasi the Avon Royu. Ben B'chor Neitel B'Roy Muchzak. Says Gemara Makkirei Kehunah Askinon. V'Ishtachi B'Chayavun Kasabra Tashlum K'Moshe Mudamim. So then the Gemara goes on to talk about Mukdashim Lomdishe. So obviously the Gemara is telling us that Muchzak and Roy are not Bigdei Shesh. Because the Bigdei Shesh, Makkirei Kehunah is not a getter of Bailus. The Kohen Levi doesn't own the Zrol Chaim Keva until he gets the Zrol Chaim Keva. He has a shaychus to Zrol Chaim Keva. What's the shaychus that the Kohen has? What is the getter Makkirei Kehunah? Come back to that. Also, Muchkeres B'Acherim. So the Sma in the Choshen Mishpat says that Muchkeres B'Acherim means the shvach of the pitum. The para becomes more healthy, more bigger, fatter by the soicher or by the choicher, and that shvach is what comes to the kefil comes to the b'chor. But that's not what the Rashbam and Tosfos say here. Rashbam and Tosfos say that the kefil comes from the chachirus and schirus alein. For the chakirus and schirus itself, the kefil comes to the b'chor. So the shaila is, how's that muchzak? Right? It comes la chamisa. The mei schirus, mei chakirus doesn't come during chaya of. So what bishlama the pitum on the animal itself? So the animal was there b'chaya of, but the schirus and the chakirus comes afterwards. What's there b'chaya of? So how would it possibly be considered to be muchzak? Okay, so then that's one question. Now, the another question is what the Tosfos says here. Tosfos Kuf Chav Dal Amud Aleph. Tosfos says in Tomer Adatana Avobanu Batim Leaf Livaniste B'Dida. Let's say in Muchkeres Gufa Nafkimina Muchkeres Gufa B'Medvar Lo Chasim Ezoina. When is it that the B'chor gets kefil? When Lo Chasim Ezoina. Ava Chasim Ezoina ain't a B'chor Neitel B'Shnayim. So we also have to understand if it's the chakirus and schirus. If it's the pitum, I understand. It's nafkimida b'shin chasim ezoira lo chasim ezoira. If it's like the sma, but if it's like the Rashbam and Tosfos, talk about chakirus and schirus. So what difference does it make chasim amoina lo chasim mazoina lo chasim mazoina? Should it make an nafkimida? There should be it's the money is coming in afterwards. So it says yesh loimar. The avamina muchkeres gufa the chasim mazoina dafka ena b'chor neitel b'shnayim b'shum davi roy gomor. So it says I might have thought that by Muchkeres itself, then it's Chasei B'Mazoina, specifically in that case, Ein B'chor Neitel B'Shnayim B'Shum Davi Roy Gomer Dein Hashvach Al Gufa Para. So what's this Muchzak? Tosfos comes up with this new idea. There's Roy and there's Roy Gomer. What's the difference between Roy and Roy Gomer? So he says, but we have to understand, the one's on Gufa Para, one's on that Gufa Para, but he Gufa. What's this idea of being Roy Gomer because it's not Dein Hashel Gufa Para? Avubanu Batim not to Kramish Shvacha Gufa Karka Amish Ein Zeroy Neitel B'Shnayim. So you say it's a bigger chiddush. It tells by Batim Ukramim that even though it's Al Gufa Karka, so then I might say that it's considered to be Muchzak. Therefore, the chiddush is that even that's not Muchzak. Okay, so fine. Now, The question is, like we said, what exactly makes this mucheres or muskeres b'yaracherim? How the chakiros and schirus is considered to be part and to be muchzak. So, if we're learning the Sugil Aliba de Rebbe holds that there's a star is muchzak. And this is concept, we have a star is an, Rabbi Zalman says, I forget where he says it exactly, but a star is an afsura de chayv. A star of chayv is an afsura de chayv. And a star schirus or chakirus is an afsura. It's a handle on the chakirus and schirus. So therefore you could say, that this is the reason why it's considered muchzak, the chakirus and schirus, because of the star. But the Rambam Paskins and chakirus and schirus is considered to be muchzak even without a star. So how do you have how could possibly you have such a type of thing that's considered to be muchzak even without a star? In this case, chakirus and schirus. So we have to come back to I want to come before we get into that. So let's talk about a little bit about the food. But it says chasir b'mezonah, lo chasir b'mezonah. So it sounds that again, even for the chakirus and schirus, it depends if it's chasir b'mezonah or not chasir b'mezonah. Why is that? So evidently, we have to say that the pshat is that anything an animal does, what's nice into the animal koyach lasos chayil, it's the food. Right? So that you have to have the not lechem, whatever it is. So you have to, everything the animal does is fueled by the food that it gets. So therefore, that's why it makes enough kehunah. But still, how do we understand that the chakirus and schirus, whoever's giving the food, wherever the food is, we'll come back to that in a few minutes. But how do we find it if we know that it's not a bilus? So there's the Tzois brings down, and this is the Ran in the Dorim, the Rosh in the Dorim. Now, there's certain things which you learn when you're a bacher, and you realize when you learn them, these are very useful tools. I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. I'm going to plug it in the right places. And this this Rosh in the Dorim is one of those things which you learn early, and then you can use the rest of your life. It's very useful, right? You want to come but need a shtickle Torah? I can use the Rosh in the Dorim. And the Rosh in the Dorim Daf Lamed Daled, he brings down. Somebody sees his kikar shel hefker in front of him, and the kikar shel hefker is not. He can. Gemara says he can makdish it. So but the question is, how can you makdish kikar shel hefker? It's not yours, right? So you could see it, but it's not yours. So the Rosh. So that's the Rosh question. Belzer mix. So how can you possibly makdish it, right? So it appears from Rabbi Yitzchak, he brings down that it's a hefker is a rechokim menu harbei. Vein adam yochol samuchlosh yuchal liskos Elohu. Nobody else is around to be zok. It's not within Dawud Amos, so it's a different case. He's the closest to that hefker. So nobody else can zok it. V'armek she'eske bekikor zeh tiyeh hektish. Kamash and the chal hektish, the hektish that takes effect. The kevon should be yodoi liskos bo. Since it's biyodoi, Perak Avapi, like brings down a Gemara in Ksubas, so the Zushim Mishkati L'cha, Kshev Dena Tikdosh, Hol Biyodoi Liftos. So normally we think about biyodo is you're there, Muslim. You're there, you have halacha 8 Echonem B'Yisurin, but it's biyodo. But here all of a sudden we find biyodo in Bibles. You have such a thing by Peter Meiser Sheni. Yeah, by Peter Meiser Sheni have halacha. If it's biyado liftos b'makom hazoil, even then later on he goes to makom hayoker, he can be pointed according to the shar hazoil. So you have even though he was not pointed b'makom hazoil, but since he wasn't a makom hazoil and it's biyado, so therefore he's able to be pointed even later on when he goes to makom hayoker as if he's still b'makom hazoil. So you have it there, but that's also more you're there. But here it's the choshen mishpat that he can make something hekdesh because it's beyond the liskos bo. Now the truth is, you can think that you can say, well, maybe the hefker is different because hefker sounds hekdesh is different because hekdesh sounds neder, and you can make a neder on it even though it's not yet his, right? But the pashup shot in the Rosh is that it's talking about not a type of bilus called biyodo, where he doesn't have bailus, but he has shlita. He has a shlita on that thing, even though he doesn't yet have it. And I think that that's the pshat in Makkirei Kehunah. Makkirei Kehunah, and the Chazal say, why does Makkirei Kehunah work? Because Sheis Yisrael lo yisu'av lo yadabu davar chazav. Because if a Yid makes a promise to give somebody something, he's going to keep the promise. So therefore, he's giving a shlita on that object to the kohen. So the kohen it's considered to be his because he has a shlita on it. It's not a bailus, but it's a shlita, a new concept, and that's like biyodai. Anything that's biyodai is I have a koyach to do something. The Makkirei Kehunah is also a shlita, a koyach which the kohen has on this thing. And the Torah, when it says kol asher yimatzei lo, it doesn't say anything which he owns. It doesn't say which is konri lo. It says yimatzei. Yimatzei lo means it's matzli to him. That's also a lashon of shlita. So what makes something matzli for kefel? The shlita a person has that the father has over it. If he had shlita, he was a kohen, and he got something through Makkirei Kehunah, so then he has a shlita on it, and therefore it's matzli lo. If it doesn't have a shlita on it, it's not matzli lo, then it's not considered to be biyado. And this is true even if he has bailus. The Ramah in Choshen Mishra says that if the father has property, but it's mishubad lamas hamelech, and the melech can come and take it any time for the taxes. So then it's even though it's his, it's going to the father to be royal l'gabe b'chayra. So why is it royal l'gabe b'chayra? It belongs to him. But because the lashon of pasuk is chol shei matzei loy, there's not matzei biyado. He doesn't have shlita on it. So both for Muchzak, again, Muchzak here doesn't mean he owns it. We have kinds of Muchzakas, which means ownership. But here Muchzak means he has an achiz on it. He has a hold on it. So the definition of the gather of Muchzak and Roi is what's Monsey, not Monsey, and what's Monsey is he has Shlita, and what's not Monsey is he doesn't have Shlita. So the idea is that anything which is a person has Shlita on, that thing, a person that's the father has Shlita on, that is considered to be his. Otherwise, it's not considered to be his, even if he has bailus on it, because it can go to the mas. Now, it's interesting. Reb Shimon has a fascinating, amazing chakira, which he brings a raya from this rush in the Darim to this chakira, which is no gay here too. He says, Bava Basra siman lamed. He says, "Mashiyesh lichoyli stapik im aknos kol chayfetz." What is that? By akno of any chayfetz, who limsor zchus lakoine, are you giving over your zchus to the buyer? Sheila sheni kol zchus sheila bailim gava. The second guy should have all the zchuyos which I had. O sheikar shabayim lichoyim libeshelohem asos mashiyirtzu. Or is that I can do anything I want with that which I owe. In other words, by akno, do I give it out? Or do I bring him in? So akno, I push out my chayfetz, and now it's yours. Or is by akno, I bring you in, and then you take over the chayfetz. Right? What comes first? Did I first push it out, or did I first bring you in? That's Reb Shimon's chakira. It's the chayfetz is by all kinyonim, kol terakula. So he says, says if we say that the Inyan HaKnoah is to be moiser his chus to somebody else, lo shaykh lomar shikneh hayom guf u'peiros le'echad v'zman acher l'sheni. Says Shimon says, and so it's a chiddush we say. So you can't say that I be makneh the peiros to this person today and another person another day, because the kemish action moiser kos chus l'rishon. Since he's giving all his chus to the first guy, ein lo malim sheni. Hodnish was to get him to the zweiter. V'shosh yagir zman haknoah soy, when the time comes to the haknoah to the second guy, ein lo maknu shum schus kava. There's no schus. Ve'ech yizkeh hasheni schus shel bailim. Came to us ein lo atzmo klum. So how can the sheni get the kol chitzav of the first makneh? How can he get anything? You don't give over schus, Elod yesh lebalim biyad bayim asos kol shal al asos shalem lebalim. It's mishiyatzu. I bring you in, and I give you whatever I have. As ef shaloimar. So he says it's possible to cave into shas ma'isa kini on nasai de baylim gemurim. Since at the time I made that tonight I was the baylim gemurim, I can dictate. I can tell you what's going to happen later on. I can divide up the baylis even after it's yatzam yushusi, because when I take you in, I took you in and brought you in on this tonight. In other words, if I give it out first, there's nothing I can do. How can I sleep? So it's like a davar shel ba'olam. Can't say something about what's going to happen 10 years from now. But if I bring you in, so then I can bring you in and say, okay, since Mikhail Haba, or everything I had, I'm going to tell you exactly, and only then am I going to give it out to the other person. He says from the Rush he wants to make a raya. He says, "In name of some days, Shalom Herkat of Perish or Rush and Dorim, Yochlam Latish Chayfetz Hamunach Samuchlo, Shibyono Skuso, Shoch Lektish Lacher Shi His Kabo." He says, how can you do that? He says, there's a Rashi in Kiddush. It says, you can't be Mekadosh with Efer Risuri Hana when it's not yet Efer. Even though it's Yodel Lasso Sefer, because it's the lace of oil. So how here can I make Hekdesh something which is not yet mine? It should be like Efer Risuri Hana, where I can't be Mekadosh with it, because it's not mine. I can make it Efer, it's Yodel Lasso Sefer, but that's it's lace of oil. So why here does it work? So he says, the lo mahani biyaro el hechesh davar nikta ba'olam el she'ena roy lekinyan. Amadarva ena ba'olam klal av she'era livro slomi chadash lo mahani. The davar shelo ba'olam klal lo mahani biyaro. So he says it must be that this gets that it's something which is not in the world at all. There I can't. There's no biyaro doesn't work. But here, because it's yesh ba'olam, it's right here in front of me, in the situation, in the matzav, where it can become hekdesh. So therefore, any schus that I have right now, and the schus I have, again, it's not bailus, it's a shlita. But this shlita which I have in this thing right now, it's enough for me to be able to take it and say, okay, I'm making it hekdesh. So again, he says, it makes no sense to say that this works, what the Rosh is saying, unless the way Kinyan works is that any schus which I have, I can bring you in on this schus as well. Because otherwise, if it's something which only takes place after the chayfetz leaves my hand, this chayfetz is not in my hand yet. But how am I going to do anything with it? So he says, Inar choknoi mesias koech lebaylim la'acher, nimtzat heichish achshav ein lo schus, hu moser davar shlo ba'olam klal. If I have no schus yet, I don't own it, I am not giving something which I have, which is ba'olam. Chayagam lo mani biyodo. Avadi the inar knoi ein mesias koech schus, so he says that this is the idea that over here, once we arrive from the Rosh, that this idea is that any hakna which I make, I bring the person in to whatever schuyos I have. And even in my schuyos is lemexo, l'shlisha, such as I only have a shlita, then I can already give him whatever shlita I have, and that's why I can make this hefker into hekdesh. Okay, so the shach it's Kimat favors this way of the shach where he talks about Shkanta. He has a similar lomdishe. So now let's go back to the Tosfos. So what is Roy Gomer? So Tosfos says that there's a difference between Roy and Roy Gomer. So he says in order to understand that, we have to go back to the understanding of the who gives them mizmazon. Now this is a very big chiddush, and it's what Tosfos is saying. It's still a very big chiddush. Is that if there's a story they say about Reb Shimon, but I think it's really the Rogachover. The Rogachover that said that kiddushin is miskadesh each and every moment. That every moment you're mekadesh your wife again and again and again. They say the story that Reb Shimon said his word to Reb Chaim, and the Reb Chaim said, but because he just mekadesh his wife again. But it really, the Rogachover says a beferish. It's not. I don't think it's Reb Shimon ain't beferish. The Rogachover says beferish that kiddushin is miskadesh b'chol rega. Okay, whatever that means, whatever the Rogachover is marviach by that. But that here you have a similar idea. When it seems that if the mezayna is coming each and every moment from the Yisraelim, so there's a siba mischadeshes. There's a new siba for the koyach of the animal each and every moment. And that is under the shlita of the Yisraelim. Right? The Yisraelim have the shlita, and that new shlita after the death of the father wasn't Monsey by the father. It's not. It was roy by the father, because that koyach lasos chayim, which came after the tear of the father, that's a new koyach. It came later on. So, but if the other person is chaser b'mezayna, so then whatever siba there was that started the chakirus and the schirus, and the upmach between the father and the chayker, the soicher, that remains a siba. There is no new siba. Being chaser b'mezayna is a new siba which takes the place of the old siba, and that's why if there's it's because it was a roy, because whatever it's pani chadashas bolakam. It's like the new Ma'aser Kedushin every moment. There's a new siba to do for the parrot to be able to work, and therefore that's considered to be roy. The Bechor is not to be Shnayim. But if there was the siba was not mechudesh. The siba was only there was only one siba, which was the abmach between the father and the chaycher, the soicher. So then that siba was already b'chaya of. And that shlita, and that chakirus, or that the schirus, which is coming later on, that already was there b'chayav, and nothing changed. There are no panim chadashas, and therefore it blives Monsey. There was one shlita. It's not nismashik. That shlita was established during the chayav. That's the shlita which remains. Now, so Tosfos says, okay, but there's a bigger chiddush. So there's a bigger chiddush. By the shevach, where the shevach and the gufa chayfetz. Okay, the shevach and the gufa chayfetz, they have the at that point that even though the shevach and the gufa chayfetz, that's considered to still be roy, right? If the shevach is not a gufa chayfetz, so he says, okay, that's partial, that's considered to be roy. And therefore, if it was they were still chaser b'mezayna, so then it was roy b'chayav, and therefore it's afterwards it's pashut that it was roy gomer, because there was a new siba, and also it's not a guf hapara. The pitum, like the smad, that would be a guf hapara, but this is not a guf hapara. This is not a guf hapara, and therefore it's pashut. It's roy gomer. And therefore, it's pashut that Bechor is not like the Shnayim in this case, where chaser b'mezayna after the misas of, and it's also not. It's also not a guf hapara. But now, when it says that when it's on the guf of the karka, so then it's more of a chiddush than it's roy. Why is it more of a chiddush? So there's the Rogachover speaks many times about Harkava Miskis and Harkava Shichnis. Harkava Miskis and Harkava Shichnis. Harkava Miskis is when two things are be'etzem one or be'etzem connected, and there's the Harkava Shichnis is where they are not be'etzem; they just happen to be coming together b'mikra, right? So so there's the idea. Early in Bava Basra, when you have Chatzi Ev Chatzi Ben Chayrin, Chatzi Ben Ev Chatzi Ben Chayrin is Shak V'Tarya, right? If whether what the together Chatzi Ev Chatzi Ben Chayrin is. So I once wrote a shtickle Torah saying you make a Chakira by Chatzi Ev Chatzi Ben Chayrin. Is here Kava Mizgis of Eved and Ben Chayrin, or is there Kava Shichnis? And they're two separate dinim. And that's nafkamina between Nachleis B'Shamai Beisil. The Chatchila held that Chatzi Ev Chatzi Ben Chayrin is our kova mizgis, and therefore it's a new getter like any psula kol. And therefore they thought that he can marry mamzeres. It's not a problem. And then Beishamai said no, you can't marry either one because they're kova shichlis. And therefore the Chatzi Tzad Ben Chayrin is pogein Tzad Avdus, and Tzad Avdus is pogein Tzad Ben Chayrin, and therefore he can't marry anybody. Therefore, Chotzu Beisil has Beishamai because they were makaber. That the Chatzi Ben Chayrin is like a kova shichnis and not a kova mizgis. So here, the if the shevach is on the gufa chayfetz, so then the shaila is that an afser? Is that already considered to be a mizkis? Is that one unit with the animal or not? Now with the animal, the shvach on the animal, the pitum of the animal, the bashkas, we have to, so the smart, they don't like smart, that seems to be our cover mizkis with the animal. In other words, it's become, whenever pitum it gets, it's part and parcel of the animal. But then the question is going to be chakirus and schirus. Is that mizgi with the animal, or is that not mizgi? Is that shichni with the animal? Is that considered to be a one thing or not one thing? So the Taisa says, okay, it's a pretty poshut to say that that's shichni, right? It's not one thing, right? The question is adarab. The question is why lo chassid b'mezoina? Then it is considered to be Monsey, but where they're chassid b'mezoina, it's not. It's since there's a new siba, and also it's not. There is no harkava. It's not all connected, so therefore there's no chiddush to say that's roy gomer. But by batim and krumim, so there it's a chiddush, because I might say the batim and krumim they are a murkav, right? They're connected to each other. So the chiddush is to say that batim and krumim, even though they're gufa karka, it's harkava shichni, it's not harkava mizgis. In other words, he's saying that's a much bigger chiddush. Because looks, something which is bonei al gabe karka, Basha says that it's part of the karka, right? Where do we find, by the way, it's not like karka? By avodah zarah, right? If you even though it becomes part of the karka later on, but if you planted the tree by a sheira, or if you built the house, right? So then it can become also as avodah zarah. Suppose the karka oilam, which can't become also as avodah zarah, or a sheira where you didn't plant it. So the idea is that's what Tosfos coming to tell us. That's a much bigger chiddush. That I might say that the tree and the krumim and the batim are a cover mizgis, and therefore it's Musa. They had the afser. They had the land. The land was there before the father was lifter. Therefore, it's kamash malon. No. How even batim and krumim are cover shichnis with the land, and therefore it's a chiddush considered to be worry.